I think we're ready, Martha, if we have a quorum.
Yes, we do.
Oh, wonderful. Good. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for taking a little time in your afternoon. We are going to try to be done by 2 o'clock. So just to give you a sense of timing on this. This is our second year in a row of doing our annual meeting on Zoom, and grateful for the technology. As Pastor Clover said this morning, it's good enough. It's a way of staying connected. Not ideal, we know. And since we're talking about the pandemic here at the beginning, I just want to take a quick moment and thank our coronavirus task force for all of their help over the last, it's almost 2 years now, and especially Jim Todd, a doc in the congregation who's been extremely helpful with bringing his experience to bear on what are the best practices and how do we keep everybody safe. So thank you all for all your patience through the last couple of years. It's been challenging, and thanks for being yet again on Zoom this year. So I will officially call to order the congregational meeting for January 2022, and I'll call on my co-pastor Clover to open us in prayer.
All right, very good. Friends, let us pray. Gracious God, in every age you have called out your people to be your faithful servants. We believe you have now called us to join the great company who have led this church, who have sought to follow you. And today we seek to follow you. Grant unto us today and always a clear vision of your call and wisdom to make decisions and strength to fulfill the ministry given to us. We pray in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Clover. Our first order of business is to receive a vote to receive the 2021 Year in Review and Ministries report. I'm assuming this is a pretty easy one. Most of our voting we're going to do by poll, where you'll have a chance to actually, put your vote into a poll. But this one I'm going to suggest we do by unanimous consent unless I hear an objection. The way we're going to do this is you can, at the bottom of your screen, you should see something that says raise hand. You can do that if you'd like to object and have a little more discussion around something. Or at least on my screen to the right of that, it says Q&A, and you can post a question in there, and that's another way to communicate. It's a little tricky with so many of us, of course, as you know. But that's Jason will be looking for keeping an eye on that. But those two functions are the way we're hoping to communicate with all of you over the next hour. So I'll take just a second to see if anyone wants to pause there. And Jason, seeing anything there?
I don't see any raised hands or no questions.
Okay.
This motion.
All right. So by unanimous consent, we have received the 2021 Year in Review and Ministries report. Clover and I want to start by just doing a few thank yous. And I'm going to start by naming our staff members. As you can imagine, this has been an extraordinary year for them, as it is for all of you in your work environments of adaptation and patience and flexibility. So if you would, I mean this very seriously, as we don't have nearly enough. We don't have the time to do nearly enough to recognize the folks on our staff, but I do want to at least call their name. And if you would just hold them in your heart and in prayer, and send them love and appreciation as I call their names. Some of these are part-time, full-time. We have folks doing just a little bit of work. Some who are here all the time, as you can imagine, like most churches. So this is just an alphabetical order. So our membership coordinator is Cindy Austin. Director of Facilities is Bob Cloud. Sunday morning manager, Doug Easton. Administrative coordinator, Beth Ellsworth. Director of Finance, Dan Gasser. Executive Director for Operations and Finance, Jason Hayes. Associate Minister of Music and Organist, Barbara Hulak. Minister of Visitation, Pete Hulak. And I'll pause there briefly to say that our own Dr. Hulak, in addition to the incredible work he does as our Minister of Visitation here, I just want to make sure you all know that he was the moderator of Presbytery in 2020 and is currently the chair of the search committee for our next executive presbyter, which is think of that as the executive director of the Presbytery-wide at an organizational level. And Pete is on that search team, and so prayers for him and that whole team as they discern that very important next spot of leadership for our presbytery. Our communications coordinator is Christine Hofstad. Charles Johnson, sexton. Tony Johnson, lead sexton. Amanda Osenga, Minister of Youth and Families. Sandy Prouty, Minister of Children and Families. Jen Seward, Mission Life Coordinator. Stuart Schoenthal is a sexton. Our Assistant Minister of Music for Children and Youth is Becky Taylor. Our Sunday Sound Engineer is Kate Time. And Minister of Music is Adam Waite. And John Gerner is our video producer and director. So I wish we could see you all and we could do jazz hands, or I know you're clapping for them in your heart, and we are too so grateful for such an amazing staff. So just wanted to take a moment there to thank them. And then Clover, you have a couple of thank yous as well.
I want to highlight three lay folks who have been incredible leaders in our congregation. We have so many. We would be here all day giving thanks to so many. But we wanted to lift up a few folks. The first two are Bridget Waldman Thomas and Dre Dufford. Dre and Bridget have they started and have led and facilitated the Open Chapel, which has met on Wednesday nights for 10 years. And they are calling, they have called their time to a close, at least for now. Well, I say that, I'm not sure they've said that, but on their anniversary, their 10-year anniversary, and Open Chapel has impacted this congregation in deep and powerful ways. And so we give thanks for their willingness to offer this kind of spiritual formation to Montview Church. And secondly, we thank Paul Zexer, who was an elder, just finished his term a year ago. But Paul helped us develop a new website. And if you've seen our website, it is one of the best in the country for church websites. And Paul Zexer gave countless hours, and his team as well. And it is a beautiful website, and we just can't thank him enough for the gift of doing this work for Montview. And I hope you'll agree with us that it is pretty extraordinary. So thank you to all three of you.
Thanks, Clover. We have a few other thank yous that we will speak as the meeting progresses. But at this time, I will turn things over to Tom Hetzel. Tom is the chair of our nominating committee, and he will present the slate for next year's, for this year's 2022's nominating committee. Tom.
Thank you, Ian. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here and welcome our new nominating committee. I'm going to introduce you all now, so if you would please stand and remain standing as I call your name. That was a Zoomer. That's a
good one.
It's humor specifically designed for Zoom. So yeah, you can remain seated if you'd like. So I'd like to introduce myself, Tom Hetzel. I am your chair, and we'll have the great honor of working side by side with Seth Belsley this year. We have Rob Mathis as our coordinating deacon. We have Beth Hulak, Ryan Kaler, Leah Oliver, Debbie Kennedy, Carol Pauls, Marissa Hudson Arney, and John Sutherland. The great team it is this year.
All right, thank you, Tom. So that is your slate, and we'll ready for voting if there's not any discussion or questions about that. Jason's going to put it on your screen. We'll do this by poll so that where it says yes, vote 1 or vote 2, vote 3, vote 4, that's how many people might be in your household. If you are a split house, I'm sorry, you're going to have to fight that out on your own, but we did want to create some way that you could vote for when there's more than one of you in a home. All right, so when you're ready, you can go ahead and vote. All right, and I think this is our first year of trying this. And I think we can tally pretty quickly. Can we see real-time results, Jason? Is that how this works?
Yeah, do you not, you should see them, Ian, on your screen?
Oh, I don't.
Okay, we have 40, 80, 151, 156 yeses and 0 no's.
Okay, that's a good vote. All right, so the vote passes. We have our this year's nominating committee, and keep them in your prayers. This is, I should have probably said at the beginning, this is the group that discerns our leaders going for the next few years. Most terms are 3-year terms, and this is the group that discerns who we think God is calling us into those positions. So that's what the nominating committee does. All right, thanks very much, Tom. Appreciate it. And now we're going to turn to Paul Lingenfelter, our treasurer, for a report of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Ian. Despite the challenges of COVID and construction, this was another good year financially for Montview. The congregation contributed $1.99 million to the operating budget, which was 5.5% above our projection. And the staff reallocated within the budget to address an unusual pattern of expenditures from all the complexity of the year, but operating revenues exceeded expenditures by $27,000 plus a little. In addition, non-operating contributions provided an additional $311,000 to the work of the church, and a substantial portion of these expenditures for COVID relief and to renovate the chancel organ were actually supported by contributions made in 2020 and earlier. In addition, $1.8 million was donated to the capital campaign this year, which brings the total received for our capital campaign to $5.8 million. And we've got an additional $2.1 million in pledges scheduled over the next 2 years. All this adds up to about $4 million in financial contributions to the work of the church. And when you add to that the young people trained, the values the congregation brings to its daily work, its volunteering, and our financial contributions to other worthy causes beyond the church, the impact is pretty remarkable. So thanks to all of us in the congregation, and thanks be to God. I'll be happy to respond to any questions.
Any questions for Tom? You can raise your hand or type in the, so if you raise your hand, we do think it's possible that we can unmute you. It might be easier if we use the Q&A and type the questions and Jason can read them. And there'll be chances all along to chime in with a question, and at the end we'll have a general opening for questions. So if it's easier, just so you don't have to rush, I know Paul will be on the call, or I believe he will be able to be on the call the whole time. So let's do that too. So don't feel too rushed to get it out right now. I'll just keep moving forward and you just type your question in. Okay. But go ahead and put that in. And even if we've moved on some, we can always go back. Okay. Now I'll turn it over to Amy Slothauer, our stewardship chair, for a report of the stewardship committee.
Yes, well, following up on Paul's comments, we were so impressed by how generous this community was for yet another year. We had a goal this year of stewardship of raising $1.68 million. And so far we have pledges totaling $1.62 million, which is a really strong way to start the year. We have received 495 pledges. And one thing that we were incredibly grateful for is that at an individual level, the average renewal was an 8% increase. So even in pretty challenging times, people have been so generous. We also had 31 new pledges, so people who had not previously pledged who pledged this year. So all of that's been wonderful. We do have about 50 remaining pledges from last year that have not been renewed. So we continue to be hopeful that those pledges will be renewed. And that will fill that $80,000 gap that we still have. But overall, we felt it was a very successful stewardship year and are super grateful for everyone's participation. I can take questions on that too.
Okay. And yeah, for this time, just to say this time of year, that's a pretty, that gap, don't let that worry you too much. That what was it, $60,000 to $80,000 gap is pretty normal. Folks, are still getting their pledges in the new year who pledged last year. So we're hopeful that we're actually going to be have it all, right, Amy? I think we
absolutely. I think we feel like we're in very good shape and would love it if those remaining 50 people would get your pledges.
We do depend on that. Yeah. Yep.
So Ian, we have a question for Paul
Okay.
about the financial report. Paul, what accounts for the difference in restricted revenue and restricted expenditures from Ken Scott, I think referring to page 14 on the financial report. Paul, could you speak to that?
Sure. I was just typing an answer, but I'll be happy to do it verbally. Two major areas of expenditure in 2021 were the repair of the chancel organ and also COVID relief. And a substantial amount of the revenues for those expenditures were actually contributed earlier. So especially the chancel organ, there was a substantial fund balance built up from earlier contributions that was expended just this year. And so basically the difference in timing between contributions and expenditures explains the reason that expenditures in 2021 were greater than revenues in 2021.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Any other questions you see present right now? If not, I'll we'll keep going with Amy for just a little longer. Amy's our new Montview Foundation chair as well. So
yes, and so I want to start by thanking Rolf Larson for his leadership of the foundation over the past several years. So I get to report on the success of the foundation over the past year, but it was really his leadership that brought us to where we are. As a reminder, the foundation has a number of different funds that are part of what we oversee. So there's a general endowment fund, and in addition, a number of special funds. There's a fund for the library, for the columbarium, the Sacred Music Fund. So the combined value of all of those funds at the end of 2021 was $6.57 million, which is an impressive increase of about $500,000. That's largely because of really good market returns over the past year. We had some small contributions, but really it's market growth. Of that, 5.7 million is in the general endowment. And that's the portion of the endowment from which distributions are made to support general operating funds of the church. It's a somewhat complicated formula of how we do that, but basically we look at a 3-year past average, the value of those funds, and we give about 4% to the general operating budget of the church. So the distribution that was made at the end of 2021, which will support 2022 operations, was a little over $202,000. And that is the largest distribution that has been made from the endowment in the history of the church. And as we look forward, I think one of our real objectives for the coming year is just to help people better understand how they can make the foundation part of their overall giving to the church. So be on the lookout for some education around that.
sounds great. Thanks so much, Amy. Appreciate it. Okay. And then I think we'll turn it over to Jason, Dr. Jason Hayes, to help us through the budget, the 2022 budget that the session just recently passed.
Yes. Here we go. I'll put on the screen the budget. I think it just helps us to So we've heard the stewardship report. Thank you, Amy. So let's begin on the revenue side. We'll be looking at the gray column right down the middle. This is the budget that was adopted by session. On the revenue side, 1.68 in pledges. Our identifiable contributors are individuals who we know who they are, and they give without a pledge. Some give through family foundations, some don't pledge for other reasons. And we anticipate 2.2 million in revenue for 2022 right here. And then we've got some additional revenue in building rentals. Those will continue to stay low because of construction and COVID. And so total revenues looks like 2.3 million. This is just a tad higher than we had last year. When we move to the expenditure side, most congregations, just like ours, the bulk of the budget is in personnel. Here we have an increase from last year to 1.589 million. Part of that is the annual cost of living adjustment that Personnel Committee and Session has approved for staff. We're absorbing some health insurance increases. And we've got some positions in our staffing that had reduced during COVID or had been suspended during COVID that we're bringing back online again in 2022. When we move down to the program areas, many of the program areas remain the same or some slight adjustments. I want to just highlight a few changes. One is in worship and music. You'll see we've got an $11,000 reduction here. That's primarily because we were posting videography services and the great work of John Gerner in the worship and music portion of the budget rather than in personnel. And that videography services is being moved over to the personnel budget. Some reductions in per capita because we culled our rolls last year. We have some increases in buildings and grounds, primarily because we have some additional unscheduled maintenance that are overflowing from the capital campaign construction that are not in the scope of the capital campaign and need to be carried on the operating budget. And in office operations, some significant increases, I mean, to the tune of 15% in increases in building and liability insurance. I'm shopping those to bring those down, but we did take a hit in insurance premiums this year. So our total expenditures are 2.3 million. That represents a $21,000 deficit budget. Last year, we approved a $16,000 deficit budget. And as you heard from Paul Lingenfelter, we didn't need it. We ended the year to the positive. But we have prior year reserves to cover this deficit, and if we need them. And so if we transfer the reserves over from prior year surpluses, we're at a balanced budget. That's the budget overview. I will
Great.
stop share so I can see my Q&A.
Yeah, let's take a minute there. That's a lot. And again, we'll have some time after. We're going to have some different folks give us some updates in different areas of the church, but we'll have a time at the end for questions too. So you can think
so
of look.
Far, no questions.
It's okay right now.
Keep moving and they can pick up later if they haven't.
That sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Jason, for that. All right. Now we have come to a spot for another vote. This is for the terms of call for the co-pastors. This is part of our Presbyterian polity that the congregation, one of the few places where the congregation votes on the direction of the church, and one of them is the terms of call. This is for we have two ordained clergy, installed clergy at the church right now, Clover and myself. And so we are going to excuse ourselves. Jason will put us in a room along with any of our family members who are on the call. And I will turn it over to Sean Barkley, who is this year's coordinating elder. And I think Jason has the terms of call that he'll post for you all. That's not in your packet. He'll put those up, and just call us when you're done.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. So we'll just wait until I guess I don't see Ian or Clover anymore.
No, we're still here. Yep.
Yep, you're still here.
Just a second. Okay, Sean, go ahead.
We all set, Jason? Great. Okay, so Jason is sharing the pastor's terms of call. What you'll see here that's being presented on the screen is what their pastor terms of call for 2021 was, and what has been brought forward by the Personnel Committee and was also brought forward to this congregational meeting for 2022. This is for Ian Cummings and Clover Beal. And after each co-pastor's columns here, you'll see the differential. It's important to note when you're looking at these numbers that our co-pastors Ian and Clover are receiving the same cost of living adjustments, or COLA, as the rest of the staff. What this also results is a slight increase in the pension contributions. As Jason mentioned as well, we are going to be absorbing the health insurance premiums. And then otherwise, everything else should be very similar to what it was last year. And so I think we will entertain any sort of questions at this point, Jason.
I don't see any at the moment. And
then this will require a vote as well.
yes. And let me look for hand raising. No hand. Oh, I got a hand. Hey, Mike McMullen has a question. So Mike, I'm going to unmute you. Mike. No, we lost Mike. Okay. Sean Ellen had a question. What's the COLA percentage this year?
6.5% is what was approved.
Might be helpful to note there was no COLA the prior year. So a personnel in session, we're trying to catch up from that year with no cost of living adjustment. I don't see any other hands. And no other questions, Sean.
Okay, so I think we can start the voting.
Okay, here we go. Terms of call, here they come.
You should see them up now.
And the votes are coming in. We have you don't see it? Okay,
I don't see those, Jason. Yeah.
I'll share the results in just a second.
Sounds good.
We have a 86% participated. Just a second. Okay. Let me end the poll and share results. Do you see them now, Sean?
I do, yes.
Okay. 66, 75. Okay, so we've got 138 plus a 4, 140 plus yeses. So we're
correct.
Approved.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. We can bring Ian and Clover back.
Okay, let me get them back in. Okay, there's Ian. And here comes Clover. I'll stop sharing.
Okay, Ian and Clover, welcome back and congratulations. The terms of call were approved.
All right, great. Well, thank you all very much for your support and ongoing generosity to us and to all the staff. It is deeply appreciated. All right, let's see here. We're going to move on, going to shift gears to leadership comments. We have a few different areas of ministry we want to give you updates on. The first one is our anti-racism trust team. As you know, this is one of our 4 strategic initiatives, is to be an anti-racist church. And We have an anti-racism trust team that's led by Diane Briscoe McKenzie, Leah Oliver, and the staff liaison is Amanda Osinga. And we're going to ask them, I think we can have them all here, and they'll do a little presentation.
I'm bringing them over just a
Yeah,
second.
there's Leah. And I see Diane coming.
Since there's three, let me see if I can get all three of you on the screen. And okay, there we go.
Okay, good morning to everyone. I'm Diane Briscoe McKenzie, co-moderator of our Anti-Racism Trust team, along with Leah Oliver, my friend, sister, and co-moderator, and also with Amanda Osanga, who has been our support of our Anti-Racism Trust team from the staff of Montview. In the fall of 2020, the Anti-Racism Trust team was formed with 13 members of the church, and we were tasked with embarking on a journey of mutual learning and growth regarding anti-racism. The task was and continues to be working on adopting methods and practices for Montview to become an anti-racist church. Why are we doing this? Because this is our work as Christians to promote social justice and equity as taught to us by Christ. Our HEART, H-E-A-R-T work has involved completing 2 studies with videos and study guides. The first is entitled, What Lies Between Us? Fostering First Steps Toward Racial Healing. This was a starting point for our team to learn about the roots of racism and to self-reflect as to the effect of racism in our own lives and in our community. In our second study, Leah will tell you about.
Right. Thank you, Diane. And it's been such a privilege and honor to share on this team and share in leadership with Diane. And our team has had really an amazing experience of growing together in both knowledge and understanding of the depths of this particular issue and how important it is for us as a church to collectively center our hearts and our work on this issue. So we're very grateful to Montview and to our church leadership for supporting this work. Our second study was called The Color of Compromise, The Truth About America, the American Church's Complicity in Racism by Dr. Jamar Tisby. And we found this study to really be a very powerful experience. It's a video study that goes on for 11 sessions, and we worked through this together, and it really brought forward many aspects of the history of not only our country, but the collective church, that were things that not all of us really understood, and really helped us to gain a better understanding of why this work is essential for all of us to invest in. So we then now have moved through doing that study and are in a new phase of inviting our church leadership to step into this work as well. And the reason that we feel that this particular study is useful for not only our team to do, but for our leadership to do, is that our experience with understanding and with developing a new understanding of history was very much expanded. This particular study very much illustrates the need for the church to repair the harms that have occurred because of systemic racism, and that we have learned in a new and different way that there is complicity in the church that we may not have understood or realized, but now that we do, we as Christians believe that this is very, very important work. One of the amazing things about Dr. Tisby's study is that he has an incredible way of stating fact and bringing in scriptural references, but he keeps the tone very grace-centered. It is still very hope-filled, and while you understand the gravity of the topic and that is always present, there is also hope in the end for us as a Christian community and Christians in relationship with each other and with God. So we are excited and looking forward to conducting this study for our deacons and our elders who can participate starting this coming winter. And we will be discussing that more in the coming, in an upcoming presentation to the adult education, during the adult education hour on February 6th. We really are dedicated to the idea that it is only through reflection and heart work that we as a church can embrace an anti-racist approach to our faith and to our community. And we do very genuinely invite our church family here to join us in doing this work together. It really has been a gift to all of us, and we look forward to stepping into that with you as well. Diane and Amanda, do you have additional thoughts to add?
Mine is just an expression of gratitude, both for the both of you, as well as for the members of ART and the commitment that each one of you has made to this work, both the hard work and the heart work, and look forward to February 6th and the opportunity to share more in more detail what the invitation to the congregation is in this work together. So,
thank you.
Okay. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you very much in giving us that kind of peek into what's coming up and all the work that's gone behind the scenes to get us to this place. I think there's some exciting things coming up in this next year. I think this is going to be a good year for Montview as a congregation to get in, to be able to do a lot of the work that, or to be a part of a lot of the work that you've laid the groundwork for now going forward. All right, we're going to keep moving.
Ian, a couple questions or no?
Sure, yeah, great.
So will the February 6th adult education be recorded? Yes, it will be. Jeffrey Ackerman wanted to add 18 Montview members who are called the Human Dignity Delegates have been in study for 2 years. They just completed the TISB study together to prep for the church. But that was from Maryland, not Jeffrey. And then Lucinda, yes, the February 6th presentation will be available by video. Yes.
That's right. That's right. Our human dignity delegates will help we're going to train them to lead, to be facilitators for the TISB study as well. So they're going to be really helpful too as we move forward from a leadership perspective. Okay. Anything else for you all? Thank you very much. All right. Okay. Jason, I think we'll turn things over to, we're going to hear an update on the construction projects, and we're going to call on Bud Starker. If you can, I know you're moving a lot of folks around there, Jason. If you can find Bud, I don't see him on my screen, but there we go. I hear him. There's Bud. Bud is our committee chair for the construction committee, and take it away.
Okay, thank you, Ian, and thank you for the opportunity to update everyone on our House of Prayer for All People construction project. It's been a very busy and productive year. I want to take a moment to thank our pastoral and administrative staff for the great work that they've done in helping us through this year. Ian and Clover and Adam and Jason have just done yeoman work in helping the committee and the process through. We've had a very active committee working on this. I want to really reach out to and thank Craig McGinnis, Martha Carlson, and Bob Cloud for the great work that they've done on this. But really, most importantly, I want to thank the members of our congregation, the folks that have, with your enormous support and your financial contributions, have made this project possible. And without you, this wouldn't be possible. So we're very grateful for your patience and your generosity as we move into the completion stage of this project. I think you're going to be very pleased with the work that's been accomplished and the project that's being turned out. So on behalf of all of us, and I think the congregation as a whole, I want to thank everyone for your great support on this. I want to now pass the mic to our construction advisor and general contractor, Vince Collarelli, who's with us today for a brief update on the project. So Vince, take it away.
Thank you, Bud. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the opportunity to visit with everybody today. I've got a quick little presentation for you all that I hope is up on the screen now. We had an opportunity to visit with you about a year ago, right when we were starting construction. And as Bud said, we're nearing completion at this point and wanted to just share with you a little bit about progress and some of the stories. This has been, among other things, a bit of a process of discovery along the way. The building has a lot of stories to tell, and it's been quite revealing, really, from day one. What I'd like to do is just kind of walk through progress on a few of the different projects, keeping in mind that there are 13 concurrent projects going on at this time. The first is the Miller Center. And in the Miller Center today, if you were to walk in, you would see that the plaster restoration on the ceiling work has been completed. The light fixtures have been restored and are ready to hang. The work on the stage was completely rebuilt. The turntable has been reinstalled. The paneling has been restored. We are ready to hang the doors between here and the Heritage Center. There was quite a bit of historic restoration that was involved in that piece as well. And all in all, Miller Center is really at that point ready to be buttoned up. Next up is the Heritage Center. And the Heritage Center has required a lot of field adjustments as we made our way through it. There's been a number of field conditions that have differed, and I'll show you one particularly here in a few moments as it relates to the rose window. But if you were to walk in today, you would see that the Heritage Center, again, is really at that point now where we are ready to hang the doors and begin to install the custom casework for the library and heritage display. On the outside of the building, we've got the Montview Boulevard corridor. A couple interesting things here. We have completed the restoration of the windows in the tower. The stairs, the front stairs, were to be removed and reconstructed. We were able to salvage the original masonry treads and risers, and so those have been put back in place. And we are finalizing the work associated with the stairs so that we can then put the storefront on the outside and begin the landscaping exercise. Many of you, I'm sure, have seen the lantern on the Dahlia side, and that has gone up over the last couple of weeks. It took a lot of coordination to make sure everything fit together, but we're real proud today to say that we have it up. We have everything fully enclosed, and if you have had the opportunity to see it at night, it really is quite a, it really lives up to its name as a lantern. It's quite a beautiful element for the building. Westminster Commons has taken equal amounts of coordination. Again, there have been, as you begin to peel back the onion, there have been a few things that have been different than anything we had anticipated, but with the team's hard work, we've been able to work through those discrepancies. You can see that the roof has been raised, that the skylight assemblies are ready to go in, that the storefront framing around the outside is all installed. In fact, this picture is a couple of days old. If you go in there today, you'll see drywall is starting to be hung. And so we're just a few weeks away from having all the finishes in place. You can also see the bridge has been completed and the holes cut into to the sanctuary. Work in Eudora Lane and the Eudora Lane corridor has not been without its challenges as well, as we discovered quite a bit of construction below the old sidewalk that was not anticipated or known. But since that time, we have worked together as a team to design and accommodate the existing conditions, and all of the planters are now poured and all of the underground work is installed, and we're ready to button up the paving and begin the landscaping. Just wanted to briefly talk about a couple of the challenges that we've had. Again, some of these are just some of the revelations, some of the stories of the building. Of course, COVID-19 stands on its own, and it has affected the project like it has affected most everything, with concerns about worker safety and making sure that we mitigate the spread of COVID throughout the troops, as well as creating challenges for supply chain problems. And I'll show you a slide about that in just a moment. The existing building, there's been, as I say, a number of issues. You'll see here, there was a rose window that we had hoped to put above the what will be the new movable wall at the back of the Miller Center. When we peeled that wall back, we found that there was a whole host of beams and columns and steel struts that were in this wall that were never documented on any set of drawings, and really changed the nature of this wall, so that we had to, again, pivot in terms of a design solution. The Westminster Commons lift that's going in, again, just another little challenge, but the wall that the Westminster lift was to set on was out of plumb by 1.5 inches from top to bottom. So the teams had to literally shave down a stone wall over the course of about a month to peel 1.5 inches off of it. The plaster everywhere, as you touched it, you would discover that there were some legacy issues in plaster, and so we continued to try to restore where we could or replace if we had to. But again, I'll show you some pictures of the restored plaster. It's become, frankly, quite elegant. We talked a little bit about supply chain challenges, just a quick little graphic, but suffice it to say, there is not a single material on this project that wasn't hit, whether it was something as complex as structural steel or that window wall system on the outside of the building, down to the paint and the insulation. And so trying to plan around uncertain deliveries has required that we be very creative along the way. Just a few overall comments about the job. We've got, at this point, we have more than 56,000 hours worked, more than 200 meetings held, as Bud alluded to. There have been a lot of meetings. 22 different trades have been on site. Today, there's more than 40 tradespeople on site on any given day. And most importantly, we've had no recorded accidents or incidents throughout that period. Couple stories. This is the hole between the bridge and the sanctuary. And we just kind of love this shot just to give you an idea of some of the working conditions and some of the legacy building that is there that needs to be dealt with. I really loved this photo. This photo really, I think it's one of those things that really begins to reveal what is so spectacular in this building. And this is looking into the Robinson Room from the Heritage Center, and really getting a chance to see the stained glass in all of its grandeur, and particularly the restoration of the rose window. And I think I've got a photo of that next. Yeah, so this was the existing rose window. You can see it was cluttered up. In fact, it was even roofed over at one point with tar all over it. And so there were some modifications made to the roof. The window got restored, and you can see from that prior photo how beautiful that window now has become. And just, it's a spectacular element for that space. This is the hallway around the Miller Center. Many of you remember it as the storage room. But once you see it with newly restored, with plaster restoration, with the new finishes, you can begin to see how beautiful a building this is, and it's just really remarkable when you start to peel it back. The guys in the field found a newspaper that was buried under the old turntable, and they just got a kick out of it. I think this came from 1913, maybe. But it's a neat little story about the Silvers. Sam and his wife just couldn't agree on anything except one thing, and they decided to get a divorce. As we have our eyes on completion, we just wanted to give you generally an idea. I think if you recall from our prior meeting, we had hoped to stagger completion among each of the different phases. Again, I think just because of some of the things that have happened throughout the course of this year, everything has become more concurrent than it is sequential. But you can see we're really focusing on bringing everything to a close over the next month. And so I think that's going to be really exciting. I hope that you all are as excited to see it as we have been in working on it. And I think that it's going to really live up to everybody's expectations. More important than that, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the team and everybody involved. It's been such a pleasure to work with the congregation and the staff. As a group, you are so respectful and so appreciative of the process, and it just makes it so easy for all of us to work really hard and to give it our all. And when these little obstacles come up, we just, everybody's just really committed to trying to solve it and solve it in a way that you can be real proud of. So we're very excited to turn it over to you next month, and hope that you will be equally excited when you get to be in the space. So thank you, everybody.
Vince, thank you so much. As you all can tell, Vince's calm demeanor, his sense of humor have been invaluable to us. I'm going to keep the phrase legacy issues, and the building has revealed things to us through the church along the way as ways of describing some of the hair-raising things that you've had to face this last year and a half. Any questions for Vince? On the way to questions, if you have them, someone has texted me, will contractor slides be made available on the website, Montview website? So we've enjoyed listening to the descriptions, and I think we could probably do that, couldn't we, Vince?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's, Jason, let's make a note to get those on the website.
A couple questions coming in, if I can.
Okay. Yeah.
When will the landscaping along Montview be installed, given the schedule you just showed, Vince?
Very good question. It's obviously going to be weather dependent. I think we have no plans to try to complete the landscaping during February. Obviously, March is always a little dicey. But I think our earliest hope would be to try to do it in March if weather allows. If not, it's likely an April install. And let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that it doesn't push us out into May.
Great, thanks. And a question about the bridge that goes across from the administration building to the choir loft. You were showing the picture of the stone. Could you walk us through sort of where those are, where the entrance is to the bridge? You do not need to go outside. It's all enclosed. Is that correct?
That is correct. The bridge is inside the Westminster Commons area. On the administration side, you would enter the bridge where next to the elevator at the second level, and you would walk across and land in the choir loft, right where the stairs are to the choir loft. So you can go up or down at that location as well.
Great. And a question about the lift, the lift that was in the Commons. Maybe describe or remind everyone where it is and whether it's in or not.
So the lift is if you recall, when we used to open the doors, you would walk up the stairs and the lift was part of the stair assembly. That lift has now been moved over to where the old stairs are that you would take down to the basement. So it's really to the left of the last door on the left. If you recall the doors when you walk in off a diet, you come over to the left-hand door, you walk in, and there would be the lift.
Perfect. And then Jen Seward, I see your hand. You have I just am asking you to unmute so you can ask your question. Mary Medley, thank you very much, Vince and your team, for caring for our House of Prayer for All People project. Lots of gratitude from Sarah Muntz. Randy Lapsey, how about a construction project budget update? Any quick words there on how we're doing?
Sure. So generally speaking, everything is held to budget with a few exceptions. Because of some of the coordination of the existing conditions, there have been some adjustments in the budget that we've had to make. Overall, what I would tell you is that we are up about 7% from what we had anticipated originally, but we have been making adjustments to try to accommodate for those overages. Most of those overages have been in things like abating asbestos that we had to find or that we discovered, or making adjustments where, for instance, the plaster that we had hoped was in really good shape, but needed to do some more restoration on. It's been those sorts of things. But right now we're running about 7% over where we originally had anticipated, and don't really see it changing much from that point. I think most of the unknowns are all known at this point.
Great, thank you, Vince. Those are all the questions we're getting. Ian?
All right, thanks so much, Vince. Really do appreciate you taking the time on a Saturday to be with us. And along with thanking Vince, I want to make sure we thank our construction committee, which you got to meet Bud Starker, our chair, but that also includes Bob Cloud and Martha Carlson, who are there every Wednesday morning for the team meeting that goes on to update everybody on projects. Of course, Jason Hayes is really involved with all of that as well. Craig McGinnis is kind of our financial guru on the committee and is keeping an eye on the budget and ways of keeping us as close as we can. It really has been an extraordinary challenge to keep this project on budget, as you can imagine. You know, that's any construction project that's anyone is doing these days. So we may have a little bit of fundraising to do at the end here, but it's to be 6 or 7% within budget on a $6 to $7 million project is pretty great. So we're really grateful to Vince for being very creative and very persistent with supply chain issues and things like that, and labor issues. So thanks a lot, Vince. Grateful. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll move on, and if you will, we'll have a minute here at the end for questions if you have other questions about construction. But we want to give you an update. We're going to go back to Paul Lingenfelter for an update on the sale of Montview Manor. And Paul, take it away.
Okay. The session gave its approval to negotiate the sale of Montview Manor to Archway Communities in November, and a purchase and sale agreement has been negotiated. I believe this past week, the Montview Manor Building Corporation also reviewed a interim management agreement with Archway Communities, and this is all coming together. It's a complicated process, but I think both sides are eager to get it done, and we're making good progress. We expect the due diligence period arranging financing will mean that the actual sale will be consummated probably no earlier than July, and hopefully no later than September.
Great, thank you, Paul. Questions on that? Put them in the Q&A and we'll tee those up here at the end if they're not in there already. Seeing none. All right, appreciate that.
Okay, we got, sorry, Jim Kraft asking about, comment a bit on the motivation. Jim, I'm assuming the rationale around selling the manor. Paul, could you do maybe a sentence or two on how we got to this point?
Sure. It seems like even longer, but it's probably only been about a year and a half. The session appointed a task force to review the situation of the manor and decide what would be the best approach to sustain its mission into the future and to honor the needs and interests of the current residents. The task force did a very thorough study of both the financial situation of the building. We did an assessment of its capital needs, of its reserves, and also reflected on the management challenges of operating an affordable housing community for seniors, and concluded that the best way to assure the future mission of the manor was to sell it to an experienced not-for-profit housing provider. We explored the universe of those providers in the Denver area, got to know very well 10 organizations, received bids from 5, and concluded that the most capable organization that could meet our goals was Archways Community. The final disposition of the property and the price, we have an offer from them, but it's contingent on what they find in their assessment of the building needs, and that'll be negotiated. I see a question about the distribution of proceeds, and that will be determined by the board of the Montview Building Corporation, and they are constrained by 2 things. One is that the proceeds have to be used for a legitimate not-for-profit purpose, and then by the articles of incorporation of Montview Manor, they have to be used for the mission of the manor, which is to provide services and supports to the elderly. And they're in the process of exploring options for that. And I think the church itself is looking for ways to give a proposal to the manor board that would use some of the proceeds for the church's senior ministries. And I think that's the best I can do in summarizing the current situation.
That's very helpful, Paul. Thank you. Any other questions, Jason, that you see?
Not for now.
All right. Thanks so much, Paul. A huge thanks to Paul Lingenfelter. If you all ever get to see Paul in person from a safe COVID distance, please give him a huge thank you for your hard work, Paul. It's made all the difference in this, what could potentially been a difficult transition has actually turned out. I think the residents of the manor feel extremely positive and hopeful about the future, and that was important to all of us. And it's a better outcome on all sides. And again, largely thanks to you, but also thanks to the Montview Manor board. They've played a huge role in the task force itself. So thanks to all the members of that. All right, thanks for everybody for sticking with us. I know we're a little bit over time. The rest of the meeting will be a little briefer. One more item of information for you that we want to let you know about is the Personnel Committee has approved a sabbatical for Reverend Clover Beal for this summer. So Clover will begin that May 15th. I think, I know it's right in the middle of May. I think, give me a nod, Clover is the 15th, yep. And her first Sunday back will be August 14th. And want to let you all know that we we budget to make sure that while a co-pastor or any staff is on sabbatical, that we have sufficient coverage. So there's some money set aside for extra preaching and pastoral care over this summer. And I just want to say personally, speak from my own experience of having had 2 sabbaticals over the 19 years that I've been here, how nourishing and renewing they are. The importance of sabbaticals in the life of a pastor. You know, it's easy to think of them, I think, as an extended vacation or something. And while there is certainly elements of, enjoying your time, there's an element of deep rest, of spiritual renewal, really, truly, getting back in touch with why you do what you do. That is really about setting you up for the next chapter of your ministry. So it's an investment in Montview as much as it is in Clover's life for us to do this. I think they're really valuable. I don't know that I would still be here doing what I'm doing if not for those times of renewal. I know that just from a personal, how ministry can be taxing on a family. So the chance to reconnect with Tim and their kids is going to be important as well. So wish you all the best, Clover, with that. And
thank you so much, co-pastor, and for picking up the pieces.
Happy to do it. Happy to do it.
Not pieces, just a little slack.
Would you say one little quick thing about one of the goals for your connection with some of these other churches?
Yeah. Just one of the pieces that I'm looking forward to, in addition to rest, and my spouse Tim, who teaches in Cleveland and travels back and forth almost weekly, he is also on sabbatical this summer, and so we get to be on sabbatical together, so take some rest. So we'll reconnect. But one of the foci of my sabbatical is to do some connecting with other pastors of large churches, and to do some exploration of what is the large church, like Montview, a large church. What is our role in a post-pandemic time of mission? What is our role? What is our call? I would like to pull together a group of lay leaders of Montview to do some reading and thinking with me about that, so that when I return, that we can have a little groundwork, have a little traction on thinking about Montview's, a vision for Montview in the next time in the life of this church. So does that make sense?
Yeah, great. Thank you for that.
Thank
so again,
you.
one of the other ways that we will all benefit from your time away. So that's great.
Yes, don't get used to it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the quiet. All right. We will move now to, I would receive a motion to recess the congregational meeting. We have to do one quick piece of business here. I think if you just use your hand, and I'm assuming Jason can keep an eye on that. If anyone would raise their hand for a motion, and then a second to recess.
I think maybe Martha can move that one, because I can see Martha's hand.
All right, great. We're going to trust that it's people are willing to do
correct.
This.
Without objection.
Yes. And then,
without objection.
Turn it over to Clover.
All right. And we are going to now, because we have called together a meeting, we are calling together a meeting of the corporation, the Montview Corporation, and we have the business of electing our corporate officers for 2022. The action affirms the authorization of persons by the congregation to act as agents for us according to the Articles of Incorporation, such as authorization of required times of signing legal documents or things of that nature. The officers are always the president. The president is always the coordinating elder of session, the current coordinating elder. The vice president is the representative to personnel. So in this case, it's Sean Barkley and Sujin Kim. The secretary is the clerk of session, Martha Fitzpatrick, and the treasurer is our treasurer, Paul Lingenfelter. So these are the names put forward to elect officers of the Montview Corporation. I would entertain a motion to receive these names. Martha will entertain a motion. And Jason, is this a? Yes,
Yep.
it is. So let us move to vote.
And you're voting to elect the slate as presented in the agenda.
Yes, correct. Thank you. We're voting to elect the whole slate.
We have 30 more seconds. And we have 129 yeses.
Great. Thank you all so much. Thank you especially to the officers of the corporation. We are grateful for your service in this role, in these roles as well. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting of the corporation. Martha can. So moved. All in favor, say aye. Yay. Okay, we're assuming that we are adjourned officially.
Fantastic. And I will once again call to order the meeting of the congregation. So we're back as a congregation, as a church, and just want to leave a little time here for questions. Anything anybody wants to talk about. This is the time for now. We'll have, obviously chances moving forward. But
So right now, no questions in the Q&A.
okay. Anybody?
And
I'll
no
pause just a
hands
minute.
raised. Oh, wait,
Okay.
we have a hand raised.
All right.
Donna Fredrickson. So I'm gonna see if you can unmute, Donna. Go
I'm
ahead,
unmuted.
Donna.
Yep, I think we hear you. Nope,
And
maybe not.
you need to tell me why I am unmuted, because I was just speaking to my son when this happened.
Okay,
Well, you must
no
have
worries.
accidentally raised your hand, the little
Oh,
hand.
okay. Sorry
No
about
worries.
that.
No problem.
All right. Anybody else?
We've got a question. John Gonder says, I hope in the future we can increase mission support.
Amen. Yep. Great. Thanks for pushing that, John. Yes, I think we agree. And we're, as the staff liaison to mission, I know I can report that we talk about that as well. That's our hope. And I guess I'll use the chance to say, and there are lots and lots of other dollars that go to mission than what we officially have in our mission budget, which I know you know, John. But we could also increase our mission budget. So good. Anything else?
Yep, we have Mary Medley. Can we hear you, Mary?
Thank you. Zoom is a wonderful, wonderful tool. And the thing that not only being unable to be in person, it creates under the circumstances, is also the missing of the opportunity for us as a congregation to express our deep gratitude in a way that is energetic and clear for all of you who are toiling in the field on our behalf every single hour of every single day. So while I know you can't hear everyone, I'm here clapping and letting you know how much we all appreciate you.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's in some ways being on Zoom again is just so indicative of the disconnect that I think we all feel, the congregation, the staff, from each other, and we're doing the best we can, and we are grateful. We will be grateful, as Clover said in her sermon this morning, for the things that are great about all this technology that allows us to keep being church, but it's not quite the same. And it's really grateful for your comments.
And to that point, it is good enough.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
We will trust that. Appreciate that. Appreciate all of you really taking the time to be with us this afternoon. And it's I was just in the middle of all of this, I was thinking, you know, in the middle of a pandemic, we're still doing some really big things with the construction and Montview Manor, and this, it's a sign of a very vibrant church. And so know that we're on the staff side really grateful for all the good souls that make it happen. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just more gratitude coming in on the Q&A from Mueller Gerards and the Ackermans and Randy Smith. Thank you all for your comments. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I think I'll receive a motion to adjourn, and we'll take my prayer, my closing prayer as our adjournment. Okay, let's pray. Oh, with deep gratitude, Lord, for the many, many gifts, the big ones that we can talk about on an annual meeting, but also the countless little acts of love and kindness that go on in this church by these members. Most of them not even in this building, but just lives shared together in compassion and love. And we are all so blessed to have this extraordinary building to come to, and this extraordinary staff that's working so hard, and this extraordinary congregation that really does work so hard to try to be the hands of Christ in this world, and to bring a more just world, and to bring joy and hope and compassion into this world. So bless us and keep us close in this new year. We pray in Christ's name. Amen. Okay. Jason,
Thank you
big
all.
thanks.
Yes, thank you to all of you. Blessings.
Take care. Bye-bye.